Welcome to touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And of course, the Tennessee Titans were flying high after an exciting overtime win over AFC South rival Indianapolis that took them to 6-2 on the season. Of course, all that joy quickly turned to shock when the news dropped that Derrick Henry would be out indefinitely with a foot injury. Of course, Henry had foot surgery on Tuesday morning. Of course, Mike Vrabel didn't give a timetable on that return, but the Titans get their first test, and it's a big one from the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday night in primetime, of course, without Derrick Henry. Of course, that's going to be the place where they'll be playing the Super Bowl as well. Here to talk some Tennessee Titans with me is ESPN reporter, writer, and, of course, host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming on. So I have to ask you, what has been the mood over at the Titans facilities with Derrick out for an extended period of time?
I think to a man, they're challenged to step up, and obviously they miss Derrick because he had such a tremendous value to the football team from a statistical standpoint, from an influence on defensive standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. Oftentimes when you see them breaking down the huddle, after games or even just at different times, it's Derrick Henry in the center of it. So that's going to be missed. But I like the way the guys have responded as far as they're still maintaining that next man up mentality. And they're just like, hey, look, man, we each got to step up and play our part. And we're just focused on our individual role. And I think that's the right way to approach it.
All right. Well, definitely, I picked up that kind of vibe as well. As for the game plan of the Titans, Coach Mike Vrabel did state, I watched one of the clips you put up about Mike Vrabel talking about the, he plans to still stick to the running game as the basis. Of course, the Titans signed Adrian Peterson and signed Deontay Foreman to the practice squad as well to go along with Jeremy McNichols.
Right.
In your estimation, do you feel that it's truly a running back by committee now without Henry, with McNichols, leading the charge?
Yeah, I think it is going to be a running back by committee. We'll see how that works. If it truly develops into that. Adrian Peterson and Deontay Foreman on Thursday at practice, they were during individual period. Coach Tony Dews had a few practice squad defenders come over and bang with them a little bit during each of the reps during drills. And I would imagine that's to get those guys used to contact and try to accelerate the process of them being able to get onto the football field. For me, I would imagine it's going to be a mixture of those three guys on first and second down. But make no mistake about it, third down, that's Jeremy Nichols. That's his. He's going to continue to occupy that. He even had that for the most part when Derrick Henry was on the football field. So I think that's how it's going to go. But don't be surprised to see a little bit more of the passing game, the short, quick, immediate passing game, smoke routes, and those type of things be an extended part of the rushing attack.
Gotcha. Of course, I got to talk about other weapons with the Titans, and one of those weapons is Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
In and out of the lineup this season. Any word on if he'll be playing in this game versus the Rams at this point?
Yeah, I think he will be playing. Sorry about that. I'm following up on something I was trying to get earlier. Yeah, I think he will be playing. Just in watching him today, he looked good, right? And when I say he looked good, I'm talking about his ability to start and stop. And that's something that I've spoken to him before about. And he said that hamstring is primarily a maintenance thing, and it's not something that, has impacted that acceleration and deceleration. And, as being a former athlete, how much that hamstring plays in that role. So that's a good thing. Got to see him run some routes and do some of the stuff, catch the ball, turn upfield and explode upfield. Those are all positive. So I think all signs are pointing to him play. But we just have to see what happens on Friday, right? Because that's really going to be the main indicator. They're going to need him, though, without a doubt.
Now, I will say that, of course, with Derrick Henry, teams always pack the box and, 8, 9 people in the box, man-to-man, more than likely outside, things like that. Now, Derrick Henry's out. In your estimation, do you expect the Rams to pack the box, despite Derrick Henry not being there?
No, you're not going to see too much stack in the box without Derrick Henry, unless somehow, some way, Adrian Peterson goes back to the 2012 version that we saw. I don't think that's really going to happen. Teams are going to be a lot less likely to do that. They're going to have safeties play back a bit further. And this week, you're going against a team that has a guy in Jalen Ramsey, a Nashville product that is able to just, he could shut most receivers down. So I'll really be watching that matchup against Julio Jones or A.J. Brown, whoever that should be. I'm looking forward to that. I don't think they're going to stack the box, though.
Gotcha. I was kind of hoping against hope, give some Titans fans a little hope there, but hey, I understand. I wouldn't stack the box either.
Right.
Of course, the Titans have passed the test when it comes to the Colts, Chiefs, and Bills offenses. The Rams, of course, present a whole set of problems with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and Tyler Higbee and those guys. With the Rams having such a dynamic passing game and the Titans having injuries in the secondary, do you think they're equipped to handle this passing game this week with what they have?
That's a good question. With Chris Jackson and Greg Maven having missed practice a lot this week, and Christian Fulton not, as of now, not being activated to return to practice. He hasn't even been designated to do that, so I doubt that he's playing. Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods. Robert Woods is right there with anybody as far as the route running. Cooper Kupp is an excellent route runner, but the yards after catch, he has 3 catches of 50 yards or more. That's very explosive. That's him, really showing off. And he also has become, somewhat of a vertical. That guy's unstoppable. I'll put it that way. So it's going to be really tough, especially when you look at this play-action passing game that has the ability to boot and move to one side and throw to the opposite because of Matthew Stafford's arm, his ability to throw from the right side to the left side across the field, 60 yards down the field, is something that's rare. That's what Sean McVay, he's done a really good job of designing plays. That's actually a part of my Whiteboard Wednesday. One of the things that they hit Van Jefferson on a 67-yard touchdown, I'm going to say, or it might even be 72. Those 2 numbers stand out. I don't remember which one it was. But nevertheless, it was a bomb that they threw, and he was able to score a touchdown. So those are some of the things that they have to be very wary of. And then, you mentioned play action. And I tell you what's interesting, and this is a good case study for the Titans, just because the Rams don't truly have a threat at running back, right? They're not a team where you go in and say, hey, we have to stop the run. But their play action is one of the best in the league. So it's kind of showing proof that you don't have to have an outstanding rushing attack to have a good play action passing game. However, obviously having the Martian Derrick Henry back there makes things a lot easier. Defensive players are going to be more inclined to bite on those things. But at the same time, it's still possible for the Titans to run play action. And the Rams are showing proof of that.
Gotcha. Okay, now I am going to visit a little bit of Whiteboard Wednesday, actually. That was part of what I had to ask you. But it was a different one. I saw on Whiteboard Wednesday, for those that aren't aware, on IG and, Instagram, Facebook, ESPN.com, you can see Turron Davenport drawing up a play that could potentially help the Titans win, whether offensively or defensively. One particular Whiteboard Wednesday stuck out to me from a couple weeks ago, where you showed Landry off the ball rushing from a little bit more linebacker depth, along with Jeffrey Simmons lined up in one spot, Nico Autry lined up another, and David Long taking up a big gap with his abilities, being responsible for the huge gap. Can we expect this formation potentially, and maybe some other ones coming from the Titans defense, kind of give the Rams a different look?
I would expect that. You didn't see it as much against the Colts. There were some times where they used it, but I would expect that because I think really the key when you have a gunslinger like Matthew Stafford that thinks he could get the ball anywhere on the field, you want to get him off his block and make him put that ball in harm's way. The thing when you have a game like this, that's your ultimate equalizer, the turnovers. And by the way, the Titans have 9 turnovers in the last 6 games. Kevin Byard accountable for 4 of them, and he returned 1 fumble for a touchdown. Just a little footnote there. I definitely feel that you'll see some of that, but what they have to do is make sure that if they're in that package, whether they're stunning where they'll have Dupree stunt inside and Landry loop around on the outside, you got to make sure that you maintain that outside contain because they're booting, right? And if you're not going to get home as he boots to your side, if you're not going to get to him, put your hands up because you want to be able to knock the pass down because he's going to roll to either side and try to throw the football. So those are some of the things you want to do. But then at the same time, Sean McVay is no slouch when it comes to calling plays. So as he sees the guy start to outside contain, you might see a quick off tackle or a lead in that interior gap just to try to go against the guys maintaining the outside contain.
Yeah, kind of a little bit to throw off the tendencies a little
Exactly.
bit. Now, of course, the Titans are the underdog, and you know how the Titans do. When they're underdogs, they tend to show up and show up well. For the Titans to win, they have to do what in this game especially well?
I think they need to. I'm going to say, and it's cliche, but they have to play complementary football. And I'm talking about on offense. I think they have to establish some type of presence of the rushing attack, show that they are going to still work to run the football and play action off of that. I'll say this. They need to maximize A.J. Brown. And I don't care if Jalen Ramsey's covering him or not. You still need to maximize him. And if Ramsey is covering him, there are things you could do. You could try to move him across the formation. You could motion him. You could have him do different things. And Ramsey is a very strong cornerback. He tackles really well. He does a good job of blowing through blocks against those smoke screens and those type of things. I still would test that. And I would also use his aggressiveness against him, run some double moves and some of those things. I know for a fact this is a matchup that A.J. Brown is really looking forward to. I talked to him last summer about that, and he mentioned how, the first time he went against Jalen Ramsey, it was not good for him. He mentioned the weather, and he just mentioned, just how good of a corner Ramsey was, and he's looking forward to that rematch.
And it sounds like we got a nice one, fun one to look forward to in terms of those two on Sunday night. Now, offensively, outside of AJ Brown, of course, who's one person who has to have a strong game for them to win?
I mean, there's a few players that we can mention. I'll throw one out there, and I'll go with Chester Rogers, and I think, or Marcus Johnson. I think that third receiver, Julio Jones, obviously. So that's kind of like a layup.
Lob right there.
Let's shoot some jumpers here, and I'll go with Marcus Johnson or Chester Rogers, and I think those guys, just because of what they're able to do out of the slot, that quick passing game, running the whip routes and choice, those different things out of the slot. That's also an extension of the rushing game, right? It's a quick catch and throw. So those guys, they need to make some plays, and nobody's talking about it, but this is a return game for Josh Reynolds. He's a guy that the Rams drafted and he developed there, wasn't, really used to his full potential. He always smiles when you mention Ryan Tannehill because Jared Goff, kind of, what's the word? Sabotaged his deep threat ability. So that's another one that could be a surprise option, but it is really going to depend on how much they use him. He hasn't been used much lately.
Got you. As far as defensively, we know Harold Landry, we know Byard. Well, who's got to be the unsung hero for the Titans to win?
Yeah, I'm going to say David Long, and this is the face. Anytime I say David Long's name or he's mentioned, this is the face that you get because I love watching that guy play. I love instinctive, natural players, and this is something that he has. And we talked about this from the moment he set foot on a Titans training camp field. That's the first thing that we talked about was how playing in that wide open conference, has allowed him to be so comfortable in space and make that transition natural. And you see that. So I think he will be a big time guy. And here's why. Obviously, you're going against the run, but they like to run a lot of crossing routes and those type of things. So his ability to carry that crossing route, until it has to be passed off to a safety or whoever else, and just kind of disrupt that. I think that's really important because that's one of the things that they do to get Cooper Kupp the football in space and allow him to get those yards after the catch. So he'll be key in that. And you could also blitz him, right? You want to mix in some things, show him different looks to find ways to get pressure.
Well, man, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. It was going to be Derrick Henry versus Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and the Rams defense, but now it's the Titans versus the Rams, and no one believes they can win. Where have we seen that before?
Multiple times.
Right. I just want to thank you for coming on. If you would, tell everyone where they can reach out to you, where they can connect with you on social media, whatever you'd like to tell.
Yeah, for sure. At @T_Davenport_NFL. That's my Twitter. My Instagram, I'm so bad with that. It's Turron Davenport_NFL. And you could ESPN.com, of course. Go ahead and click the NFL page, click teams, and then Titans. Go ahead and subscribe to that. You get all my posts there. Whiteboard Wednesday, anything that I post about the Titans is there. And also Talking with TD, searching on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or iTunes, anywhere you find your deluxe podcast. You can find mine on there, Talking with TD. ESPN 102.5 The Game. Definitely check that out, thegamenashville.com.
Definitely a good listen. And I'll say this. I live for the introductions that you and Chris Sanders have each week.
Every week, man, it's a random basketball player. Every week. It started because he started calling me Robert Parrish. So I couldn't let him go. So I had to get him, whether it's Clint Richardson, Michael Cage, Tyrone Hill, Xavier McDaniel. I've had a bunch of names for him. I'm going to have another one for him this week.
Didn't he call you one of the members of the Jackson 5 one time?
Yeah, he's always saying some off the wall stuff, man. The funniest is he called Jared Stillman. He called him John Candy, and I still can't live.
Wow. Well, thank you again for coming on. Everyone, you've been listening to Touring the AFC South. Stay tuned for what's coming next.